Good morning. This is Silva Linings, episode 3, coming to you from the bunker or the basement bedroom, whatever you want to call it. This morning, or today's episode, because I never know when I'm going to do this, but this episode is called The Butterfly Effect. Now, some of you are probably familiar with the idea of the butterfly effect. There was an Ashton Kutcher movie about it a long time ago. But essentially, the idea behind the butterfly effect is this idea that if a butterfly flaps its wings somewhere, then it can cause some other effect somewhere else. So that's the idea behind it. So I want to talk about two types of butterfly effects. The first one is the one that we just talked about, where a butterfly flaps its wings and then somewhere else something happens. We obviously are all living in a somewhat butterfly effect type of awareness right now. Now, this has always been the case. No matter where you are, no matter what you've been doing, we're all an integral part of everything, period. That hit me a long time ago. And initially, the weight of it was kind of like, felt like a lot, but to realize that every single one of us has an effect on the whole. It's been taught in the Christian tradition for a long time. But we don't really think about it in our everyday lives. We think of ourselves as isolated. Now we actually are a little bit more isolated, but we usually think of ourselves as isolated and that the choices we make don't have a lasting impact, or we don't think about a lasting impact. Right now, we're discovering not only do the choices we make have a lasting impact, but also the choices that we don't make also have an impact. There's a lot of things that are happening right now as we try to scramble and figure out how to deal with this COVID-19. And let me stop and rewind a second. The reason why I'm doing these videos is because my hope is that through love and through putting out our talents and shining our lights and all the other things, positive things we could say, that this pandemic could actually be a positive evolutionary moment in history. That's why I'm doing this. All that being said, there are things that we didn't do, ways that we could have prepared, not because we were preparing for a pandemic, but because we chose love a long time ago. The things that we could have said, ways that we could have shown up, positive ways that we could have been in the world. And it would have made this moment, when it came, that much more easy to deal with. But because we lived as if we were isolated and shut ourselves down and put ourselves in these little boxes and divided ourselves from our neighbors and all these other things, now that we're in this new situation, we're kind of struggling and scrambling. And there's a lot of things that people are trying to implement now that people talked about decades ago. And so the butterfly effect that I'm talking about now is not only what you do has an impact that can be far-reaching, but what you don't do also has an impact that can be far-reaching. So I want us to be mindful of that as we find ourselves in this new moment, because even now, everything that you do is going to have a ripple effect, a positive or negative somewhat impact on the world that is emerging from this situation. So that's the one type of butterfly effect. The other type of butterfly effect, which isn't normally called the butterfly effect, is what we all know about butterflies, that they start off as caterpillars, that they're crawling, bound to the earth, limited in their range of motion and where they can go and things like that. And then there comes a time, and I don't know what triggers this time, where the butterfly realizes, you know what, I have to go get into, create this chrysalis and, or this cocoon, if you will, and put myself in this isolation. And when I'm in this isolation, everything about me, everything that I've known about myself up to this point is going to dissolve. That's what happens. If you don't know anything about what happens with butterflies, when they're in that cocoon or that chrysalis, they actually turn into almost like a goo. That if you looked at it, you wouldn't think that anything was happening or anything could happen from this goo. It completely dissolves and turns into some kind of liquid. I preached about this before in a sermon. That's the only reason I know. But anyway, they go into the cocoon, they become this goo, and then somehow, in ways that I don't understand, they end up forming into this new creature out of their old self. And then as they start to develop these wings and they start to form into what we're going to call emerge as a butterfly, they start trying to get out of that cocoon. And as they're trying to get out of that cocoon, they're flexing. They're like, poof, poof, poof. They're pushing their arms, or their wings, I should say, and trying. And if you open that cocoon while they're still in the process of trying to get out, what ends up happening is their wings don't fully form, and they won't survive. So what happens is while they're in there, and the more they're pressing, they're pushing, they're also building their capacity, their strength in those wings. And eventually they break through and they're able to get out, shake off the little juice, and fly. And I'm praying and hoping that this moment that we find ourselves in history is one of those moments. That it's one of those times where, though we're isolated and though we're in this cocoon and everything is kind of seeming to close around us, that those of us who want to be aware, who want to be a positive impact on the planet, on our society, on our neighbors, that we can see this moment as an opportunity to be transformed, an opportunity to be broken to some degree from whatever it was that wasn't helpful to us, to learn the lessons, whatever they may be for our souls, and then to emerge and to allow and to be aware that when you're trying to get out, that what you're doing is you're building your capacity, you're building your muscles, you're building your wings until you too can open up and fly. And so my prayer, my hope for this time, since we're in it anyway, and we might as well make the best of it, is that you look at this type of butterfly effect, see what's becoming, what seems to be falling apart, and see what's actually happening, what's being removed from you, and then what new things are being received. Because once that butterfly, once that new you emerges from this situation that we're in, your capacity will be greater. Just like that caterpillar first was bound to the earth, could just walk and crawl, and that's all that it could do, looking for leaves and things to survive. But once it became a butterfly, now it can go out, it can fly, it can go to different places. It's got that much more capacity, that much more ability. So my prayer, my hope for you, and I hope that you, if you feel this, if you think that there's something in this for you, I pray that you take this to heart and speak it into the lives of other people and share it if you feel comfortable sharing it. Because we have a choice right now. We can be that positive effect in our society, because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up. A lot of things that we haven't dealt with that is going to emerge. And how will you come out of it? That's the question. So peace to you all. Love you. And I'm just going to keep trying to do these videos. I got a lot of other ideas that are coming into my mind. And I'm actually going to do an interview with a guy today who came up with this really awesome universal basic income idea. I've known about him for a while. My friend Maury introduced me to his wife, who didn't introduce me to him. And we're going to do a little video interview, and hopefully we can talk about some other possibilities. So I had to head off because I got to do something else. But thanks for watching. And hi, Leslie. I'm going to wave at you. Maury, I'm about to see you in a minute in our little breakfast. I'm going to wave at you. And bye, everybody. Take care.